developing tonight, a new documentary featuring previously unseen surveillance footage has raised some questions about the hours leading up to the 2014 shooting death of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, which touched off so many events in the country. The documentary is called Stranger Fruit, and it suggests Brown's appearance at Ferguson Market and Liquor was about an exchange of pot and cigarillos, and it was not a robbery. Watch.
In the early hours of August 9th, just 11 hours before Mike took his last steps, he went to his local convenience store to make an exchange. Look carefully at the counter, and you can see a trade is made. Mike gives the store a little bag of weed. You can see the employees smelling it and passing it around. Then you can clearly see Mike being given 2 big boxes of cigarillos. The store clerk puts the cigarillos into a bag for Mike with his other stuff and hands it over the counter. Mike is about to leave the store, but decides to have the clerk hold his things behind the counter for him. The next day, with his hands politely behind his back, Mike goes back into the store to get his stuff.
So now both the convenience store and the St. Louis prosecutor's office are disputing that footage, and they're accusing the filmmaker of editing the video to fit a narrative. In moments, we're going to hear from both sides, filmmaker Jason Pollock and St. Louis County Prosecutor Martha MacCallum. But first, Trace Gallagher in our West Coast newsroom with the newly unedited footage that was released just hours ago. Trace.
Hey, Martha, let me just go back and start with that documentary video which shows Michael Brown visiting that convenience store just after 1 o'clock in the morning, which was several hours before he was accused of robbing the very same store. If you look, you can see Brown grab some drinks and ask for cigarillos. And when the clerk bags the sodas and mini cigars, Michael Brown places something on the counter. The filmmaker, Jason Pollock, says it's marijuana and that Brown is making a trade. And it appears the clerks pick up whatever Brown put down, and they look at it and they smell it. Jason Pollock then goes on to say, here's what really happened. Listen.
Mike traded the store a little bag of weed and got 2 boxes of cigarillos in return. He left his items at the store and he went back the next day to pick them up. Mike did not rob the store.
The St. Louis County Prosecutor calls the filmmaker's claim, quote, just stupid and nonsense, saying the poorly edited snippet leaves out critical context. So we went back. We looked at the entire video sequence, and it was edited, and it did leave out context. For example, the filmmaker did not show the clerks talking to Michael Brown, clearly debating whether to make a trade for whatever he put on the counter. And the filmmaker did not show the clerks taking back the sodas and the cigars and putting them back on their shelves. The lawyer for the convenience store says Brown tried to barter, but he failed. Listen to him.
This is the argument that's going on between Michael Brown and the clerks. What do you mean, you won't barter with me? What do you mean I can't trade with you? Why not? Come on, man. The language got heated and it got ugly.
The filmmaker stands by his claim that the footage would have changed the narrative that Michael Brown was shot after robbing a convenience store. Police say it was irrelevant because Officer Darren Wilson didn't stop Michael Brown for robbery. He stopped him for walking in the middle of the street. Martha.
Thank you, Trace. Joining me now, the filmmaker behind Stranger Fruit, Jason Pollock. Jason, good to have you here. Good evening to you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great.
I am simply stunned by that report. Simply stunned.
All right,
Beautiful job.
You
Fake
can be
News
simply stunned.
101.
Hold on. I have a question for you, okay? Because
Yes.
to me, what are you proposing legally? It makes no difference whether a robbery happened or a trade for pot happened or whether a bank got robbed or he was home doing his homework. What matters is what happens in the street when he and Officer Wilson encounter each other. So why have you focused so heavily on what happened in the convenience store?
That's a very interesting way to phrase this, because I completely agree with you. And the reason we put out this convenience store tape now is so that people could get over it, because he didn't rob the store. And anyone that sees the exchange that takes place with a conscience, a heart, 2 minds, and is not a bigot, pretty much understands what happened. Unfortunately, there's some people in America with so much bias inside of them that they just want to think that Michael Brown is a bad guy. But yes, let's talk about the physical evidence
hold on,
on
Jason.
Canfield.
They think
Yes.
perhaps that Michael Brown is a bad guy because 40 FBI agents went to Ferguson to investigate this case
Yeah.
at the behest
Yeah.
of Eric Holder, who showed up almost immediately after it happened. I
Yeah.
think it's fair to assume that they really believed that they were going to be able to indict Officer Wilson, that he had acted wrong.
No, I don't think that
But
that's.
when
I
they
don't think
got
that that's.
there,
That's
okay,
not. That's
all right, throw that
absolutely
out
not
then.
true.
Throw
Not
that out
true.
then. All right,
Don't
look.
just say that.
No, you're just saying plenty of things. So let me just
Those FBI
throw one
agents-
thing. The FBI agents went down there. Eric Holder went down there.
To indict
They
Darren
expressed-
Wilson?
Well,
Darren Wilson? No way. You know how the system works. These cops get off every single time. Bob McCullough has been the prosecutor for over 2 decades. And
Here's
for
the fact
23
of the
years.
matter,
Wait, excuse
Jason.
me. Let me just finish this. For 23 years, according to the Washington Post, there has not been a prosecution of a single police shooting in St. Louis County.
So you
Every
believe-
single
hold
one
on,
of them,
now it's my
every
turn.
single
Now-
one of them,
Back
none
down.
of them
Listen to me.
are indictable?
It's my turn. You're suggesting that 40 FBI agents were all
I'm
in
suggesting
cahoots
the Department
to
of
make
Justice
sure
failed.
that
They
this
did- yeah, they
person
failed.
was
They
not
failed.
indicted. Listen to me.
They failed.
So
And
it's
on
not
my
possible.
film-
It's
my
not
film,
possible in
Stranger
your
Fruit.
brain that what happened there was what was found by both the grand jury and
No,
40
no,
FBI agents.
no,
You're
no.
discounting. You're saying all of that doesn't matter. Their
Yes.
investigation is absolutely not true.
When
That
the
Michael
facts
Brown
of
did
this
not
case
reach
come
into
out,
that
when
car
the facts of
to
this
grab
case,
his
excuse
gun.
me, miss, Joy, can I speak now? When the
can.
facts of this case come out in my film, Stranger Fruit, the real facts of this case, the facts of this case that Bob McCullough doesn't want us talking about, like the fact that Michael Brown was shot in the head and a bullet came out of his eye. Do you know how that would happen? When your head is down and there's a bullet in the ground. In their report, there's a bullet in the ground by Michael Brown's head. Now, how would a bullet go through here, out of his eye,
Look,
and then get
what I
stuck
know
in the
is that
ground?
there was
Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse
there
me.
were 3
I'm
different
not done yet.
forensic investigations that were done that showed that
I
he
don't
was
care.
shot in the
They
front.
failed him.
Everyone
They all
in the
failed.
country was told
They
this
all
narrative
failed.
that he was shot in the back, that he
know
had
how
his
many
hands
black
up
men-
and said
you know
don't
how many
shoot,
black men are
which
in
was
jail
all
right now?
discounted
You know
by
how many
40.
black men are in jail right now for nothing because the Department of Justice failed them? You know how many black men are in jail right now? Don't tell me
think you have
because they closed the
absolutely-
book on it. We're okay. My film will show the public the truth, ma'am. And if you want to know the
I don't know
truth,
why
you
got,
should watch it.
Yeah, okay. I don't know why you got so hung up on what happened, whether he was trading pot or trading or stealing something is completely irrelevant to the outcome of this case. Joining me now to respond to this is Bob McCullough, who